My fiancée asked for a break before our wedding to be with her ex when she came back begging to resume our plans. My response left her devastated, and now she's accusing me of replacing her too fast. I'm 29 years old, I work in project management for a tech company, and I need to get this story off my chest because what happened a few months ago basically destroyed what I thought would be my future. My name is Brandon, and until recently, I was engaged to Melissa, an incredible 7-year-old girl I met at a work conference like 3 years ago. I mean, I thought she was incredible, but we'll get to that. Melissa and I started dating casually at first. You know, dinners after work, movies on weekends, that kind of thing. She worked in marketing for a small agency and was always busy with campaigns and clients, but we made it work. The thing is, from the beginning there was chemistry, like that feeling where you talk to someone and hours fly by and you don't even realize it. I was coming out of a pretty toxic relationship that ended like a year before I met her, so I wasn't in a hurry to get into something serious. But with Melissa, everything flowed naturally. You know what I mean? After like a year and a half of being together, I decided it was time to take the next step. I planned this whole elaborate proposal. Took Melissa to this rooftop restaurant where we'd had our first formal date and asked her to marry me. She said yes, through tears and laughter. And I thought, okay, this is the moment that marks the rest of my life. We started planning the wedding almost immediately. Well, mostly she planned, and I nodded and paid deposits. But I was happy to do it because I saw her excited, and that made me happy too. Everything was going well, or so I thought. We had the date set for October of this year. We'd reserved the venue, hired the photographer, all that stuff. Melissa was obsessed with everything being perfect, spent hours on Pinterest looking for ideas for decorations and the menu. I was working a lot at that time because we had a big project at the office, so I admit maybe I wasn't as present as I should have been, but when I got home I always asked her about the plans and tried to get involved. I thought we were good, that we were solid. In February of this year, Melissa told me she needed to go to her hometown for a few days. Her family lived like 3 hours from where we were, in a small town where she grew up and went to high school. She told me her mom needed help with some things around the house and that she also wanted to see her childhood friends. I told her sure, go ahead, no problem. I even offered to go with her, but she said no, that she needed time with her family and that she'd take the opportunity to clear her mind because the wedding had her stressed. Okay, that sounded reasonable, I guess. She left on a Friday morning. She sent me a message when she arrived, saying she was already at her mom's house and that she missed me. I responded that I missed her too and that we'd talk later. That night, I called her and she sounded weird. I don't know how to explain it, like distracted or distant, as if she was thinking about something else while we talked. I asked her if she was okay and she said yes, that she was just tired from the trip. I said okay, rest, we'll talk tomorrow. On Saturday, I tried calling her around noon, but she didn't answer. I sent her a message asking how she was, and she responded hours later with a brief, I'm busy, we'll talk later. That seemed strange to me, but I thought, well, she's with her family. She has things to do. I'm not going to be the jealous boyfriend who bothers her every 5 minutes. Sunday, the same thing, short messages, no calls. Monday night, I finally managed to talk to her, and that's when everything started to fall apart. She told me, I need to talk to you about something important. And I was like, okay, what's up? And she dropped, I think we need a break, Brandon. I need time to think about us, about the wedding, about everything. I sat there on my couch with the phone stuck to my ear, not knowing what to say. A break. Like, what does that mean? I asked her. If something had happened? If I'd done something wrong? And she said no, that it wasn't about me, that she just needed space to clear her thoughts. I told her we were about to get married, we had everything planned, and now she wanted a break? She started crying and said to please understand her, that she wasn't sure about anything at that moment and that she needed this time. I, like an idiot, told her okay, take the time you need, but let's talk about this when you get back. She said yes, and hung up. And then the silence started. A week went by and Melissa basically ghosted me. She wasn't answering my calls. My messages showed as read, but I got no response, nothing. I was going crazy, literally. I couldn't concentrate at work. I wasn't sleeping well. I spent nights awake wondering what the hell was going on. Scott, one of my best friends, told me to go find her, that obviously something was very wrong. Brooke, another friend of mine, told me Melissa was being shitty to me and that I deserved answers. After 2 weeks of not knowing anything, I decided to drive to her town. I didn't tell her I was coming because I knew if I did, she'd probably tell me not to come. I arrived on a Saturday morning, went straight to her mom's house and knocked on the door. Her mom opened it and looked super uncomfortable seeing me. I asked her if Melissa was there and she hesitated before saying yes. I went up to her room, that same room where I'd been a bunch of times before when we visited her family. And there she was, lying on her bed looking at her phone. She was surprised to see me, like really surprised, and asked me what I was doing there. I told her, what did she think I was doing there? That it had been 2 weeks without talking to me and I needed to know what was going on. She sat on the bed and started crying. I asked her directly, "Is there someone else?" And she didn't respond immediately, which basically gave me the answer. After a silence that felt eternal, she admitted she'd been seeing her ex-boyfriend. Her ex. Some guy, whose name I don't even remember, who'd been her boyfriend in high school, and who she broke up with when she went to college. Apparently, they ran into each other at a local bar the first week she was there, started talking and, well, one thing led to another. She told me she had unresolved feelings with him, that she needed to explore that before she could commit to me forever. I stood there listening to her, justify how she'd basically emotionally cheated on me. Maybe physically too. I don't know and didn't want to ask at that moment because I felt like I was going to throw up. I asked her if there was anything to save between us, and she looked at me with those teary eyes and told me she didn't know. That's why she needed time. I told her, "You know what, Melissa? You take all the time you need, but don't expect me to be here waiting for you when you decide what you want." I left her house, drove the 3 hours back with my hands, shaking on the steering wheel and feeling like the stupidest guy on the planet. During the following weeks, I tried to move on with my life. Scott and Brooke dragged me to bars and dinners so I wouldn't stay locked in my apartment, feeling sorry for myself. Melissa sent me occasional messages, like, "Hi, how are you?" Or, "I hope you're doing well," but nothing substantial. I responded with monosyllables because honestly, I didn't know what else to say. In my mind, I'd already started accepting that what we had was over, that she'd chosen to explore whatever she had with her ex, and that I needed to move forward. And then, like in early April, Melissa showed up at my apartment. She literally knocked on my door on a Sunday morning like nothing, with her suitcase and a smile. I opened the door and was like, "What are you doing here?" She walked in as if she still lived there. She'd left some things at my place when we got engaged, and told me she was back, that she'd ended things with her ex, that she'd cleared her thoughts and was ready to resume the wedding plans. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told her, "Are you serious? You thought you could disappear for weeks, be with your ex, ghost me completely, and then come back and expect everything to continue the same?" She seemed genuinely confused by my reaction. She told me she thought I understood she needed that time, that we'd agreed on a break, and that now that she'd resolved her doubts, we could continue. She mentioned we needed to call the florist because there was a decision about the arrangements that required immediate attention. I looked at her, and at that moment, something inside me just clicked. I told her I needed her to give me back the engagement ring. She went pale and asked me what I was saying. I told her what I was saying was that this was over, that I wasn't going to marry someone who treated me like a second option, like a backup plan she could return to when things didn't work out with someone else. She started crying again, saying she'd made a mistake, that she loved me, that the thing with the ex had been closure she needed. I told her I didn't care what it was, that for me, it was total disrespect. I took off my engagement ring from my pocket where I'd been keeping it. Since I came back from her town, he'd stopped wearing it because it hurt to see it, and demanded hers. She resisted at first, but finally took it off and gave it to me. I told her to pack her things and please leave. She tried to talk to me, to reason, but I'd already made my decision. I basically ended the engagement right there, officially. The following days were weird. Melissa bombarded me with messages and calls that I mostly ignored. I finally sent her a message telling her to stop contacting me, that I needed space and that what we'd had was definitely over. She eventually stopped insisting so much, although from time to time, I'd get a message from her saying she made a mistake and that she missed me. This is where things got weirder. Like 2 weeks after I officially ended the engagement, I got a message on Instagram from Natalie, one of Melissa's friends. Natalie and I had seen each other several times at social gatherings. I always thought she was cool. She told me she'd heard what happened, that Melissa had told her version, probably an edited version where she was the victim, and that she wanted to know how I was doing. I briefly told her my side of the story, and she told me she thought Melissa had been unfair to me, that what she did wasn't right. Natalie and I started talking more often after that. She'd ask me how my day was going, send me funny memes, invite me out with her group of friends. We agreed to meet for coffee one afternoon, just as friends, you know. But it felt good to talk to someone who understood the situation from the inside. After that, we went out to dinner one night, and again, everything was platonic and casual, or at least that's how I saw it. It wasn't looking for anything with anyone at that moment, especially not with a friend of my ex, but I appreciated having someone to vent to. But of course, Melissa found out. I don't know how. Maybe someone saw us, or maybe Natalie told her accidentally, I don't know. One day, I'm in my apartment watching TV, and suddenly furious messages from Melissa start arriving. She accused me of having already replaced her, of dating her friend behind her back, of never having really loved her if I could move on so quickly. The irony was so big, I almost laughed. I responded saying that first, it wasn't her business who I spent my time with since we'd broken up, and second, that she literally cheated on me with her ex while we were engaged. So she had no moral right to complain about anything. That night, like at 11, Melissa showed up at my door. She knocked and knocked until I opened, and when I did, she was a mess, crying and screaming. She was telling me, how could I do this to her? How could I go out with Natalie knowing they were friends? I tried to explain that I wasn't dating Natalie, that we were just friends. But she wouldn't listen. The neighbors started peeking out because of the noise, and I basically had to get her into my apartment so she'd stop making a scene in the hallway. Once inside, I tried to talk to her calmly. I told her she needed to accept that what we had was over, that she herself had made the decisions that led us to this point, and that I had the right to move on with my life. She kept crying and saying she'd made a mistake, that she loved me, that we could fix this. I told her no, that there was nothing to fix, that the damage was done. I asked her to leave and please stop showing up at my house unannounced. After that, I talked to Natalie and clarified that although I appreciated her friendship, it probably wasn't a good idea for us to see each other anymore, given how complicated the situation with Melissa was. She understood completely, told me. She didn't want to cause problems and that if I ever needed to talk, she'd be there. It was a mature and necessary conversation, and I was glad she took it well. I thought that would be the end of it, but no. Melissa started showing up in places where she knew I'd be. If I went to the gym near my work, there she was. If I went to the supermarket, coincidentally, she was shopping too. Once I saw her standing outside my building looking up at my window. It was disturbing. Honestly, I sent her a message telling her directly to stop following me, that what she was doing wasn't okay, and that if she continued, I'd have to take more serious measures. I don't know if it was the implicit threat or what, but after that, she stopped appearing. It's been like 3 months since all this. I don't have contact with Melissa anymore. I blocked her number after she kept sending me messages at dawn. We canceled everything for the wedding. I lost some deposits, but honestly, I cared little, compared to the alternative of having married someone who clearly wasn't sure she wanted to be with me. I work, see my friends. I've started going to the gym more regularly. I'm basically trying to rebuild my life. Did it hurt? Of course it did. I'm not going to pretend it was easy, or that there weren't nights where I stayed awake wondering what could have been different. But at the end of the day, Melissa showed me who she really was. She showed me that when things got difficult, or when a temptation from the past appeared, I wasn't enough for her to fight for us. And that tells me everything I need to know about what kind of marriage we would have had. Last week I was in a coffee shop working on my laptop when I saw a young couple, probably my age, talking about wedding plans. The girl was showing her boyfriend photos of dresses, and he was looking at them with genuine interest, making comments and asking her which one she liked best. I remembered when Melissa and I did that, or rather, when she showed me things, and I nodded because I thought that was enough. Maybe if I'd been more present, more involved, things would have been different. Or maybe not. Probably not, if I'm honest. I don't know if I'll ever try something serious with someone again. For now, I'm good being alone, rebuilding myself, focusing on myself. I learned that you can't force someone to choose you, and that if someone needs to leave to see if there's something better out there, then they were never completely yours to begin with. And that's okay. It hurts, but it's okay. I guess the moral of all this, if there is one, is that we deserve to be with someone who's sure about us, someone who doesn't need to explore other options to confirm what they feel. Melissa wasn't that person for me, and although at the time I thought she was the love of my life, now I see she probably saved me from a marriage that eventually would have ended in a much more painful and complicated way. That's it, basically. My engagement ended because my fiancée decided she needed to see what was up with her ex, and when she realized that wasn't the answer she was looking for, she expected me to still be there waiting for her like an idiot. But I wasn't, and I won't be. And that, I guess, is enough for now.